What's up, everybody? It's Nicholas Atkin on the South China Morning Post, SCMP MMA in Hong Kong. It is a fine Tuesday morning here, and we have got a big show for you today. We're going to talk about this breaking news from last night that Itsuki Hirata is out of the One Championship Atomweight Grand Prix, the second winner from the first round to pull out. Jenelyn Olsim is now in. She's going to fight Ritu Phogat. I think we'll talk about some other stuff as well, some more changes to the next One Championship card on Friday, and the PFL Championship fights are all coming up on Wednesday tomorrow. So anyway, I'll bring in my guests today. It's the boys, Leon on the left, Leon Jennings from Asian Persuasion MMA, and JHK MMA over in Thailand, repping the All-Star. What's up, boys? John, how's Bangkok? Is it Bangkok? Where are you in Thailand?
I'm in the jungle. No, I'm in Phuket.
Phuket.
Bangkok.
Yeah, that makes more sense.
Bangkok is somewhat limited. Phuket is pretty free, so Leon would like it here. No mask. People are walking around with no masks on.
Okay.
Nice.
Leon, and you, how is everything in the Bali bachelor pad?
Oh, good. Yeah, feeling a little bit beaten up. 2 hours of jiu-jitsu yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Leon's just started BJJ, so the long-awaited fight between me and Leon, I'm now a little worried. I think the odds swinging his way. I'm going to have to start doing some training. Well, let's get into it, guys, because like I said, it was a bit of a shock. Yeah, Leon, what did you think when you saw that across your Twitter timeline last night? It must have it annoyed me slightly because it's another pullout. Two of the winners from the first round are now gone after Ham Seo-hee. She got injured as well. So the Grand Prix is disintegrating right before our very eyes.
Yeah, one hand, I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my God, it's just crazy. But on the other hand, should it really be unexpected? But how we saw the Grand Prix pan out in 2019, the lightweight and flyweight, and add that on top, how much they're rushing through this Grand Prix. But on the other hand, it is down to sickness, not an injury. So there is obviously a big element of bad luck. It's not really so much down to maybe the timing of the Grand Prix. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for the fans, I feel bad for everyone, but yeah, particularly bad for Itsuki. Must be a gutter for her.
Yeah, let's bring up her statement. So, like you said, Leon, it's actually, I mean, I first gave them a little bit of shit for rushing this whole Grand Prix, and I thought, well, that's what you get when you give them not enough time between rounds and you try and get 3 matches in the space of 4 months. But like you said, it's seems like she had a high fever. It's not COVID related though. So is she already? I guess she would have already been in Singapore. I don't know for sure, but you imagine so, right?
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay, so I'm trying to find this statement from her, but she basically
it's on an Instagram story.
Okay.
I've got a screenshot of it. I can send it to you if you want.
Found it. Here you go. We'd like to have all the technical stuff here on the show. So Ritu Phogat, this one was translated. So Ritu did respond as well. We'll show you that. But Itsuki said, I need to pull out of the Atomweight Grand Prix due to a high fever, non-COVID. I'm truly sorry to Ritu, the sponsors and fans who supported me, and the One staff. Grateful to have been selected for this tournament, even though I didn't have a good enough career record compared to the others. I fought hard to be in the semis. It's regretful I have to pull out this stage and disappoint many people. I will recover and be back in the One circle as soon as possible. And Ritu responded here. You can see that. She just retweeted thingies. She says, get better soon. Looking forward to seeing you in the future. So, yeah, guys. Now we're going to have Jenelyn Olsim against Ritu. And Jennalin was an alternate, or she hadn't even won her alternate bout yet. She was going to fight. God, who was it?
Cleveland, was it?
Well, first
she was going to fight Grace Cleveland initially, I think, wasn't she? But then she injured herself. Then she's supposed to fight Gian Radzuin this Friday night on the tape delayed Next Gen 2 card. Yes, I mean this whole Grand Prix this year has made the flyweight and the lightweight Grand Prix in 2019 look pretty straightforward. There have been so many. I mean, just for the fact it didn't start till September was crazy in itself, and then everything else has gone on. The amount of people that have gone in. People have gone in, like Grace Cleveland, for example, hasn't even fought. She wasn't in there. She was in there. She wasn't in there. We've got alternatives going in and out. It's just been crazy.
Yeah, John, this thing has seemed doomed from the start, hasn't it? In a way, we originally were going to have it at the beginning of this year, and then it got pushed back till May. Then it got pushed back till September. Then you had all the drama with Ritu going in and out, and then you had Grace Cleveland coming in and Julie coming in, and then they were back out again. And then we finally had a lineup set. Then you had Harm Shohei and the drama with Denise, and then Harm pulling out, and Julie going in as an alternate, and then this has happened. This tournament's just had no luck, has it?
Well, like most tournaments, they are full of surprises, and I thought we talked about this many times, that there were going to be alternates that's going to hop in last minute, and COVID just adds another element to everything that you do in the world, and this tournament has been affected, especially all the fighters that people expected to win the tournament. They're not even in the tournament. Like Hamzai, she's out. Denise Zamboanga's out. Hirata's out. Now who's left? Most likely the favorites are Fairtex and Ritu. But I've said from the start, when Julie hopped in last minute, I said she's going to take it. And I feel like one of these alternates is going to take it. It's going to be, I think we're going to see some upsets, or we're going to see a upset in one of these fights this Friday. Either Stamp or Ritu's going to lose. And it's tripped out, like how they're both 6-1, Ritu and Stamp. They're both 6-1, and they're the favorites going into these fights. But I think one of these girls is going to lose, and they're going to lose surprisingly. I don't know which one. Actually, I do know which one. I think Julie's going to surprise everybody. But the new alternate, she's also a monster too, man. Like, she can legit fight. Like, she surprised me in her last fight, what she could do, and I think she's just going to get better. Ritu better bring her game.
I'm not sure how big an upset it would be if Stamp and Ritu lost, to be honest. I think it'd be an upset in the way, the fact that an alternative, I mean, imagine if we have two alternatives in the final. That's kind of shocking itself in a way. But the caliber of these two ladies coming in, they're great athletes, great fighters. I haven't really thought about the new matchup, but I back Stamp to beat Julie. So but I wouldn't be surprised at all if Julie won. And as for the drama, I think as sort of real fans, we don't want to see this. We want to see the best fighters win, go to the next stage, fight again, and then have the best two fighters in the final competing for the belt, for the Grand Prix belt. But on the other hand, people like drama. I mean, I'd rather this didn't happen, but it adds drama, and drama's being more people talking about it. So there's positives, there's negatives, and well, same as everything, really.
I just got to read some comments quickly. Hello, everyone who's joining us, and thank you. So Gordon kicked things off saying he agrees with me. I think I put this on Twitter last night, that they shouldn't have rushed this tournament. Silver lining is it shines a bright light on Misa Barber and Olsim exposure. And if they perform well, it adds more depth to the division. That's true. Knight of the Silver Rose doesn't like it. Yes. And he also said, this is just fat, Knight of the Silver Rose. It's not buffness. Don't worry. I won't be taking on Leon anytime soon. Yes, as Alvin points out, the gentleman here truly hopes Miss Hirata gets better. Of course, I would like to see her back soon. Just looking through the rest of these comments. Rain is asking why.
Can I just say quickly, Nick, you need to be as nice to yourself as you are to everyone else.
Oh, back on the keto, Leon, to get buff again.
I'll take that back.
Okay, I knew you would. Yeah, it's slimming season. Want to roll into Christmas looking a little thinner so I can get fat again.
We're in hospital again,
like a bear.
Yeah,
like a bear.
Yeah. Why is Julie going to surprise everyone? Has it been a shock to you guys? Rain is just asking. Get to the specifics. Does Julie have better distance control than her opponent? Is her lead kicks? Is it the way she sets up her rear hand? Who wants to take it? John, you sort of picked Julie for glory after she was added in, and I kind of agree she might shock everyone. But why would it be a shock, or would it? Am I wrong to think it would be a shock?
Well, it's a shock to the Asian MMA community. Let's just say it like that, and a lot of the people that follow won championship. They've been following Stamp since the beginning, right? Since the start, since she decided to transition over to MMA and fight in MMA. And she's made leaps and bounds in her skill set. But I feel like in her fights, she is not active enough. And one thing about Julie, she's very active in her fights, right? And Stamp in long periods, she kind of still has that Muay Thai like stance and that style to where you're like not striking, and she doesn't really put in that many combinations together. A lot of like just one punch, one kick, moving forward, and just I don't know, it's just stationary. And I feel like if she does that against Julie, then Julie's just going to be more active. And you know, the judging has been kind of wild, right? And I feel like if you stay active and hit your opponent, it doesn't really have to devastate them, but it looks like you're winning the fight. I feel like Julie might be able to do that against Stamp if it stays on the feet the whole time. But I don't think it's going to stay on the feet the whole time. And if it does go to the ground, Julie has shown that she's capable of grappling with some of the best, you know, Mei Yamaguchi, one of the best grapplers, I think, in that division. And Julie did really well against her. And if you look at Julie's record, she has way more experience. And the funny thing is, before she fought Mei Yamaguchi, all of her opponents the most fights they had was 5. All of her opponents. And she won most of her fights. And then she jumped up to Mei Yamaguchi, who had like more than 30 fights, and she did really well. So it just shows you that Julie, she fights to her competition and actually exceeds that. And I think that that's what's going to happen in this fight against Stan Fairtex. Stan Fairtex is not going to really lose because she's going to be less skilled. I think she's going to lose because she's just not active enough in the fights. And that's just my assessment of this matchup. And I think Julie's going to go in there like a bat out of hell. And I feel like she's showing that confidence too. I saw that interview. Who did the interview, Nick? Was it Drake?
Yeah, Drake interviewed Julie. I interviewed Stab. So
yeah,
so I think if you mean the SCMP one, yeah,
the SC, of course, you know, SCMP until I die, right? So post fight, right? So
yeah.
with Julie, that interview, man, she was so confident, and I felt like she built the most confidence off her win, rather compared to like all the other women in this tournament. And the ones that could actually beat Julie, they're not even left yet, or they're not even left there. You know what I mean, in the tournament. So Julie all the way. Am I being a homer? I don't know, but I love Stamp too, man. Stamp could definitely go in there and knock out Julie. That's something she can do. But how many knockouts does Stamp have in MMA?
A few TKOs.
I don't think she has many in Muay Thai.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I guess maybe I'm wrong about that. So maybe that just adds to my argument of, you know, Julie going in there and getting the so-called upset.
That was the worst technical analysis I've ever heard. John getting
well, Rain is the one who always attacking my hey, I'm not a technical analysis guy. I'm just telling you what I see. You know what I mean? Go watch Dan Hardy. Go watch you know, guys that are like technical analysis, right? That's you know, why are you watching every week if you don't like what we're saying? Come on, dude. Like, are you just here to just like tell us like we're the worst people in the world? If you are, great. I don't mind, because at the end of the day, once this podcast is over, I'm not even thinking about anything except for what I have to do in my life. So it's all good, Rain. If I'm not a technical analysis, so please do not listen to me. But that's just what I saw. That's just what I think is going to happen.
Well, I think it's a pretty good breakdown myself.
Indeed.
Don't you agree that Stamp does have like long periods during the fight where she does nothing on the feet? Really? And
I think one of the things that we've most been impressed with her is how quickly she's adapted to the ground game. But I think for me, that's kind of almost taken my attention away from everything else. I've been so impressed by how quickly she's adapted to the ground game, both attacking and defensively, that I kind of agree. Yeah, she even in a Muay Thai fight, she could be more proactive on the feet. She just tends to just try and just do enough, and so.
That's how she lost the title, right? To Allison. Alicia, what is it?
Alicia and Janet Todd, both very, very close fight. I mean, most of her fights in the Muay Thai have been very, very close. Skill level very close. Everything very equal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's another question I'll ask. I think Leon. I know her record isn't the greatest, but I feel like we can always count on Binu to fight anyone in time. People keep pulling out. Like to see B get a shot. Well, that would have been interesting, right? Because B and Ritu, you have that story there already. B beat her. You could have that rematch in the semi. But I think B is literally on holiday in Mexico right now, and she's been out of training for a few weeks after she lost her last fight to Jenelyn Olsim. So there's no way I think she'd jump in at the moment, Leon. Is that right?
Well, I think it'd be physically impossible with especially the way the world is at the moment, to get to Singapore. And if Jennalin was already in Singapore, she was already fighting on Friday night against Gian Radzouin. So it was kind of a no-brainer, really, unless you maybe considered putting Gian in. But then Jennalin has beaten B, who beat Ritu in the last year or so. So I think it was the only fight that made sense, and it does make sense. Well, I think it's the only fight that's plausible, and it does make sense.
Yep. I mean, I think you're right, Leon. They couldn't have done anything else. It's hard luck for them. The show must go on.
It's really bad luck because we've had injuries and we've had COVID, and now we've lost a fight for a sickness. It's not COVID. So it's like a third element which has sort of got in the way of this Grand Prix. So yeah, it's just very unlucky for everyone involved.
Okay, what I thought was weird was when they sent the email press release around, they said undisclosed medical reasons for both Itsuki and also Roman Kriklia, who pulled out of the main event, which was going to be for the inaugural heavyweight kickboxing title, I think. So they said undisclosed medical reasons. So it's like, what? They didn't tell you why they're out? They didn't give you a reason? You don't know? And then like 5 minutes later, she just says it on Twitter that, oh, I had a fever. Is that strange to you? I couldn't get my head around it. Are they trying to, because everyone just immediately thinks COVID, right? Or am I being unfair, Leon?
I don't know. I mean, undisclosed, does that always mean they don't know, or does it just mean that they're not willing to reveal it? But yeah, strange.
Yeah, who is not disclosing it? One or the fighters? That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter. We are where we are. And like I said, we've lost that main event, the kickboxing main event now. So the card is
one blessing is I've got to predict the Ritu Itsuki semi-final, because for me that was the most interesting matchup. That I was just so intrigued by that, and for me that was such a difficult fight to call. Both similar experience, both similar sort of game plans to get the fight to the ground and then just ambush their opponent down there. Yeah, I was really looking forward to it, but I'm sure we will see it further down the road.
Okay, a couple other comments I'll just bring up here. Gordon saying again, Julie crushed an entire shelf of tomato cans and then beat a 38-year-old Mei Yamaguchi. I think it would be an upset if she beats Stamp, and he agrees that Stamp is too inactive. And then Chris is asking, why aren't they bringing the panda in? I mean, is she out there in Singapore, right?
There's no way she'll be able to make weight in time. She's a straw weight.
It is literally 3-4 days before, so I don't think they could have done anything else than what they're doing. So I'm not going to give them too much shit. And it's just unlucky, like I said, that this is all going on. And maybe if they hadn't rushed it, things could have been a little bit better for them. And John, I'll go to you. I think this whole thing, we've lost Ham, we lost Denise, and they were the top 2 ranked, really. Is this tournament become, is it even worth doing anymore? Is the winner of it really going to be worth the title shot against Angela Lee when you've got girls or women who are ranked higher? You've got Ham, you've got Denise, and I know they have to do it, right? But it's taken some of the shine off this tournament. Is that a fair analysis? Some people are saying that.
I blame Angela Lee. No, I'm just kidding. I don't blame her. But it kind of, don't you get a feeling that they want to, rather than like postpone, they just want to get this atomweight Grand Prix over with so they could just move on to whatever they have planned next, because it's just been delayed and delayed and delayed. And I don't mind it. I mean, of course you want to see Ham and Denise and Hirata in the semifinals and finals, but God didn't want it that way. I'm not trying to throw religion in there, but I'm just saying, like, they didn't want it that way. And at that same time, we don't know. We might get the next champion. The next champion of this division could be one of these 4 women, right? It's not out of the realm of possibility. Julie, Jennalin, Ritu, Stamp, they could end up being the champion. They could end up winning this whole thing and fighting Angela Lee. And another crazy thing is, what if the 2 of them, they win, and then one of them gets sick like Hirata in the finals, and then they have to pull somebody in last minute, and then they come back in and win the whole thing. You know what I mean? There's more stuff that's going to be crazy, I think, that's going to in the future and ahead of us. And I always look at this example, Daniel Cormier, when he was kind of just a guy coming up, well known for his wrestling, but they had a heavyweight tournament, and he was an alternate, and he was the alternate. He jumped in and won the whole Grand Prix. And let's look at Daniel Cormier, where he's sitting now. He's a legend, right? 2 division champ in the UFC, Strikeforce heavyweight Grand Prix champion, Hall of Famer. He's on his way to becoming the president of the UFC, it looks like, right? He's probably going to be groomed to be the next guy to step in. Who knows? So let's hold our horses. You know, there's going to be some more wild stuff on this roller coaster. But I think one of these girls is going to, be here for a long time.
Well, yeah, another comment here I want to bring up from Equation is saying, I think it makes it easier to give Denise a title shot afterwards thanks to the dropouts. But this is something I wanted to ask. Why do they insist on icing their champions in these Grand Prix, the divisional champions, for a year or however long it takes until they have this challenger, when they could keep the division moving? Like with flyweight, they did that. They left Marais out for a year, and then it became 2 years because of pandemic. I mean, with lightweight, they kept that going. They had Edouard fight Shinya, and then Shinya v. Christian. And then Christian ended up having to jump into the final of his own Grand Prix. But wouldn't you just keep the division moving? Have Angela defend, maybe delay these semis until December. Have Angela defend against Ham or Denise or whoever, and then just keep things going. Why we got to wait till have Angela wait until we have this tournament over with? The situation has changed. Angela's got to be ready to fight soon, right? She was originally targeting November. So Leon, do you think it would be unfair to just throw Angela against someone else and then delay the semis a bit?
Yeah, I personally don't think they could do that, because this whole Grand Prix has been evolved around the making Angela's next challenger. And like I said,
but
and then also
the situation's changed.
It changed. Yeah, she also had a baby. It's not as if she's just been sitting on the sidelines like Adriana and Mariah's. That was completely different. That was, like you say, that turned into a nightmare with COVID following afterwards. But she's probably appreciating every day to get ready now. I think early next year is perfect for her. I think November probably would have been too soon for her. So I think this has worked out a bit in her advantage. So I think, and with Denise, it's tricky. I mean, she's going to get a title shot at some point. Hopefully she fights Ham next. If she wins that, you'd almost guarantee she will fight the winner of Angela versus the Grand Prix winner. So, and although she's got a loss on her record now, Denise, in most people's eyes, probably she didn't lose that fight. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a very tricky situation, and there's been more things, crazy things than your average Grand Prix, which is saying something.
Okay, well, I do want to ask you guys as well. How do you think this new fight is going to go? Ritu against Jennalin. Get some predictions from you then. And what do you think the final will be? So, John, we'll ask you first.
Ritu versus Jennalin. If you look at Jennelin's track record, she did really well in her last fight, but I feel like Ritu, man, she has improved so much in the last year. I think she goes in there and takes her down and submits her. I think Ritu goes to the finals. Win by submission, second round.
Leon, what do you think?
I haven't thought too much about it yet, but I mean, again, it's another interesting match. I completely agree with John. Ritu has just improved so much. She had that loss to B, which was controversial, and also she gassed so much in the third round after winning the first 2 rounds comfortably. Then Jennelin's looked good. She's got a win in straw weight, so she's obviously a big atom weight. And then she looked solid against B. Nguyen in her last fight. And she's at Team Nakai. She hasn't been there that long, so you think her improvement's going to be quick, like Ritu is as well. If she's taking in more and more knowledge every day, training with some of the best coaches, some of the best fighters in the world. For prediction for that, Right now, I'll probably say Reed to give her the edge, but I haven't really thought about it too much. And again, it's just such an interesting matchup. And for the other semi-final, yeah, I think Stamp will win a close decision. I think that's what's going to happen in the other one. But I need to have a bit more of a think about the Jennalin Ritu semi-final.
All right, let us know your takes in the comments and the chat. I mean, I got the sense something was up, Leon, because we hadn't heard a peep out of them about media day. They haven't announced, as far as I know, before we went live here, whether we're gonna have a media day or a press conference this week.
No.
I sensed there might have been some issues, and lo and behold, the spidey sense was right. So I don't know. I wanted to stream it if they do it. I don't even know if there's going to be post-fight interviews. I wish they would just tell me so I can plan my week, because it's a busy week, guys. We've got the PFL as well, and we've got UFC 267 and all sorts of things going on. Dana White's Contender Series tomorrow with 3 fighters from the Shanghai UFC Academy as well. I got to cover that. Busy week. But anyway, why don't we talk a little bit about... You want to look at the PFL fights, guys? I sort of vaguely had an idea of doing that, but we can talk about anything you want. The floor is open.
Anything?
Yeah, well, maybe not some of your favorite topics, but
I'm joking.
I don't know. I'm not too fussed about the PFL. I've enjoyed the product this year, but it's not caught fire, I think, the way they wanted to. Is that fair assessment, John? Am I being harsh?
Yeah, it's a fair assessment. Like all the fighters that they brought in, right? They brought in Verdum, they brought in Pettis, they brought in a bunch of others, right? But at the end of the day, who's in the finals? Most of the fighters in the finals, either fighters that we've never heard of, or fighters that already been signed, or they already been in the finals. And there's a lot of fights that are somewhat considered not competitive on paper, right? So, but I'm always down for the upset, though. I'm always looking for an upset in any sport that I watch. So I'm looking at these matchups, and can Kayla Harrison go to 12-0 and win another $1 million? And the big story is, once she completes this fight, I believe her contract is up with the PFL, and that's why they've been asking Dana White a lot of these questions about Kayla Harrison. But the thing is, I don't think the UFC is going to offer Kayla Harrison the money that PFL is offering Kayla Harrison. This is just something that the UFC won't. I don't think they're going to invest that $1 million. She's making $1 million in a span of 6 months, and plus all the other money she's made each fight that's not disclosed to us, right? And I'm guaranteeing she's making a lot, probably making 6 figures per fight, because she's been with the PFL since the beginning. She's the face of the PFL. Leon, don't you think, when you think about the PFL, isn't Kayla Harrison the face of it?
I was going to say, I agree with everything you said then, really. I mean, you pretty much nailed it. For me, all the talk's really been about Kayla Harrison, the fact that people are assuming she's going to win it, what's she going to do next? And I think that's a very good question as well. What is she going to do? Is she going to stay in the PFL, earn lots of money, but not challenge herself the way she wants to? Or is she willing to get paid less, go to the UFC? Because she is 100% confident she will go down as the greatest women MMA fighter of all time. And she can't do that if she stays in PFL. So you think she's 100% going to go to UFC at some point. She's 100% going to fight Amanda Nunes at some point, who's obviously a training partner at some point down the road. The question is when. Will it be after this season? Will she do another season, bring in the money? I think they've just signed Julia Budd, who may entice her to stay. It's a potential competitive matchup for her. Yeah, so for me, a lot of the talk, particularly recently in the PFL, involved Kayla Harrison, who just seems like a great woman as well. I love listening to her talk. I love listening to her interviews. I love her confidence, her bubbly personality. Yeah, I could listen to her all day.
I haven't made my picks yet, but sorry.
You haven't? No. Also, what is it? Megan Anderson's out there flying in the wind too. You know what I mean? She could go up to 155 and
she's
compete.
a big girl.
Yeah, and she's tall, long. It could somewhat give her, Kayla Harrison problems. Who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows? I'm just thinking, who is gonna beat Kayla Harrison? Is Taylor Gradado gonna go in there this weekend? Because she also was someone that nobody talked about when this whole thing started, and all of a sudden she's knocked off every single opponent, and now she's in the finals competing for $1 million. And I believe she only has 4 fights. Yeah, she only has 4 fights, and most of the fights she took were in this tournament, in this season. And Kayla Harrison has just crushed everybody. I don't know. It's just depends on which Kayla Harrison comes out, right? But I feel like she hasn't really changed anything. She's getting better, but she just the game plan is always going to be the same: is to take your opponent down and smash them. You know what I mean? It's just like Khabib, right? Just take them down, smash them. And then when she starts to play around on the feet too much, that's when her opponents will get somewhat of an advantage, or not an advantage, but will be more competitive where she's the weakest. And I don't even know if she's weak there. You know what I mean? Like, which woman have you seen that has just like high level striking at 155? Not many out there that can compete with Kayla Harrison. Yeah. So the big story is what's she gonna do after this? But man, she's gotta win this fight. If she doesn't win this fight, I think she stays with the PFL. And if she does win this fight, I think PFL throws her a lot of money, or they might have already negotiated her contract that she's going to sign after she wins. You know what I mean? There's stuff going on like that. I would believe so, right? And Kayla Harrison, man. But the matchup that you guys got to look at is the rematch between Ray Cooper and Magomed Karamov, right? Like Magomed, he defeated Ray Cooper in the finals in, I believe, 2018, the first season of PFL. And Ray Cooper, ever since that fight, he was determined to fight Magomed in the finals again. And now he manifested it, and Magomed's there. And Magomed, you don't really see him doing any interviews. I actually interviewed Ray Cooper a couple weeks ago, and he's saying that that loss has changed him. And he says he's going to go out there and put a hole in Magomed's face. And I'm very interested to see. I'm actually thinking that Ray Cooper is the underdog. And does it say that, Nick, on the Fanatic?
Yes, he is plus 170 here, and minus 205 for Magomed.
Yeah, I'll take the underdog on that one, man. I think Ray Cooper is going to go in there and do his thing. What about Clarissa Shields, right? Did you guys watch any of the interview that she did the last week about her talking about Jake Paul? Have you guys saw that?
I've seen little snapshots of it.
Yeah, like her saying that she would spar Jake Paul or box him and beat him. And I saw somebody comment underneath there with a pretty good point that she's almost like shooting a pistol at at just fruit. You know what I mean? Just like a it's low hanging fruit, right? Like how can Jake Paul respond to that? Think about it, Leon. If you were Jake Paul, how could you respond to her saying that she's gonna beat you up? Like, what would you say? I'm gonna beat her up. Like, is there even a dignified way to respond to that?
Well, I'm sure he'll think of something. He's Jake Paul, isn't he? I mean, he had. What did he say about Amanda Nunes because Dana White suggested that? I think jokingly said, "I should just let Amanda Nunes beat him up." He responded in a typical Jake Paul way to that comment. I think
it's a lose-lose situation in a way, right? Like you can't go out there and say like you're gonna beat her up, but then if you say something kind of like sideways, it could be turned into something totally
I would
new.
love to see Clarissa Shields or Amanda Nunes fight Jake Paul. I'm just going to throw it out there. I know some people hate that idea. I'd love to see that. I know it would never happen. Well, maybe in Fight Circus, but outside of that, I don't think we'll ever see that happen. But I'd love to see it.
Jake Paul is like 100, like he's like 205. Like that, it's like that's crazy, right? Like a 205er fighting a 155er.
Yeah, maybe not so much Nunes. Maybe certainly Clarissa Shields. I think Clarissa Shields would give him a lesson.
Okay.
What do you think about the Clarissa Shields project? Do you think that they're setting it up to where Clarissa Shields goes into the tournament next year and they want Clarissa Shields versus Kayla Harrison in the finals? Is that what they're trying to do?
She won't be ready by next year, I don't think.
She said 2023 she plans on entering the tournament.
Oh, okay.
But just quickly going back to Kayla Harrison, I think a related question to that is, what are the UFC doing with their women's featherweight division? It seems like even more extreme, but similar. Reminds me a little bit of what they were doing with the flyweight division a couple of years ago when they were releasing loads of fighters.
Well, there's a comment from Gordon, maybe related. Maybe Megan Anderson signs with PFL at lightweight, starts to get interesting. I think Julia Budd would give Kayla a tough fight. Yeah, I don't know. This is all in play, isn't it? It seems it could go one way or the other. I don't know. What was your original suggestion, Leon? Sorry. What is the UFC doing?
I just want to say, UFC seem to be very undecided what they're doing the women's 145-pound division.
There's not even a ranking on their website.
There's no rankings. They've like Megan Anderson, she's no longer under contract. So if you want to push for that, then you can't be letting Megan Anderson go. But then I think they've signed one or two more, or there's a few matchups now, which is kind of surprising considering they don't seem to be into it. But yeah, I mean, why not build for it for potential Kayla Harrison coming over in a year or two?
Is it that big of a fight that it's worth having this division for just to keep around?
So, because Dana said he'll keep the featherweight division around as long as Amanda Nunes wants it to, so she can just be the champion, and then just if the odd woman comes along, wants to challenge her, or the odd bantamweight wants to move up, then they can do that. But that it's kind of strange in a way. That's not really the UFC way, is it? I know they obviously have a lot of respect for Amanda Nunes, rightly so. But yeah, that just is a bit strange.
Well, by the way, this is Fanatics Fantasy MMA. You can get it at getfanatics.app, and you can join our SCMP MMA group there, and you can make your picks for all the fights. You can compete against us. Don't think Leon's on there, but John certainly is. I'm certainly there. And I'm not very good, so you got a good chance of beating me. But we make all our picks there every week. They've got every event, PFL, One, Bellator, and of course the UFC. And certainly they have other things as well. So check it out if you haven't already. A couple other title fights here, right, guys? And obviously you get $1 million, don't you, if you win? So we're about to have, I think, 4 new millionaires. And yeah, that's not a bad shout, is it? To win $1 million for 3 fights. Some of them haven't even fought 3, I think. I'm not even sure. Have we Movlid against Chris Wade? What do you think, John? I'm going to ask you for your predictions here.
Oh man, Movlid Kaibulaev. Man, this guy is
my guy though, Brendan, I think.
Yeah, he's a absolute beast, right? Not the most fan-friendly style, but an absolute beast. And Chris Wade has his hands full. But Chris Wade is very good too against these grapplers from Dagestan or from Russia or the Caucasus. He's done well against them, and he has wrestling credentials himself, and he's performed the best he's ever performed in this tournament compared to the other tournaments. This is going to be a lot closer than I think people realize, but I feel like Movlid will probably just drag him into deep waters, right? He'll just grind him down, and probably end up just, finishing him late, like in the 4th or 5th round, or just ride the decision for 25 minutes. And Movlid, I just look at that guy and just see a guy that nobody wants to fight. What do you think, Leon?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be very competitive. I'm leaning towards Movlid.
All right. So, yeah, there's
to go against the Dagestanis these days, isn't it?
Yeah, never good. Yeah, plenty of other title fights here. Guys, do you want to just cherry pick anything else? What are you looking forward to most?
We're talking to Dagestanis. Quickly off topic, we've got Hamzat returning this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do a UFC preview later in the week, where we can get into it.
Hey, let's look at this other tournament final, which is the light heavyweight tournament final between Antonio Carlos Jr. versus Martine Hamlet. Look, Antonio Carlos Jr., right? He did really well in the UFC. You know what I mean? He cracked the top 15. just didn't make it up to like title contention, but a solid fighter. Submission skills is insane. And I think he walked away from the UFC. He just didn't re-sign, or was he cut? I forgot. I interviewed him like this season too. I forgot. But anyways, he left the UFC and he jumps into PFL and now he's fighting for $1 million. Like, what else can be better? You know what I mean? As a fighter, to leave the UFC where everybody wants to be, and then in less than a year fighting for $1 million. Man, the PFL is giving options to these fighters, and Antonio Carlos Jr., Shoeface, like many people call him, he has a huge chance to change his life, man. He probably didn't even make $1 million in all of his UFC fights combined, and I believe he had more than 10. So in one fight, he could get paid. You know, Corey Anderson said that too, right? After his last fight in the Bellator light heavyweight tournament, he said that what is it? UFC gave him what it was something, and then he said
he earns more in one fight than he did in his whole UFC career.
Yeah, that was wild to me. I think that's the same situation for Antonio Carlos Jr. in this one, man. I think he's gonna go in there, but this Martin Hamlet, he's unknown to a lot of people. He might end up just upsetting him. You know what I mean? What's the odds for this fight?
We got Antonio Carlos Jr. Minus 195. Martine is plus 160, according to the bookies. So
that makes sense. But Antonio Carlos Jr., if he grabs your neck, dude, you're tapping. So
yeah,
look for that to happen.
I think the dude beat my boy, Filthy Tom Lawler. I'm happy with that.
Tapped him.
Exactly. All right, a couple other fights for the tournament championships. Loic Rajabov and Haush Manfio, and also Capoloza against Delija. So the interesting thing for me, guys, is none of the big UFC signings they made have got to these finals, have they?
Nope. Rory lost.
Not the big boys, no.
Verdum. Remember Verdum? His first fight?
Yeah.
And then we just never saw him again. You know, they even got the decision overturned, and then he just disappeared. Verdum. I was kind of like shocked by that. You know what I mean? I expected Verdum to go pretty far in this tournament, but he didn't, man. And now this Capazola character, that dude's a monster, man. And he's fighting another monster in what? Delija. What's Delija? What flag is that? Is that no? I don't want to offend anyone.
Croatia.
I don't know what flag. Is that Croatia? Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna be a banger. I think that those two guys are gonna like beat the hell out of each other. They're gonna earn the $1 million. Let's just say that one of these guys is gonna really earn it. Like he's gonna beat the hell out of each other. But other than that, man, the only other interesting matchup that I see on here is Julia Budd against Caitlin Young. I think that's gonna be a fun one. Just to see the level of Julia Budd and Caitlin Young. She's been around forever. She's like the OG of the 155 division in that in PFL. And also Dom Madge, who was cut by the UFC unexpectedly, or he left the UFC and now he's fighting for the PFL. It's very interesting how these fighters are just moving around, and some of them are realizing, hey, is the championship belt important, or is the money important?
Is on the card as well, I think.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So
against Jordan Young.
I think PFL is doing a good job of kind of like swooping up decent talent, because Dom Madge, good fighter. Omari, good fighter, right? And I think those are the guys that you probably want to end up building at the end of the day, like the Brandons, Brandon Loughnane, even like a Jeremy Kennedy, right? I think Jeremy Kennedy's hopping in short notice in the PFL, I believe. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, it's gonna be a good night of fights. This is Wednesday evening?
Well, I think it'll be Thursday. Yeah, Thursday morning here. So I'm sure I'll be here with Chris to do we can recap it as well, at least, and maybe see anything else happens in the world of one, and maybe preview UFC on Thursday. So that'd be Wednesday night US time, Thursday morning Asia. So I'll save the UFC for then. Busy week though, isn't it, guys? But yes, Drake pointing out I got a fancy new studio. It's the same studio just got a webcam over there instead of on the laptop. I need to sort out the lighting though. I was playing around with it for 10 minutes before I went live here, but I haven't got the right mix yet. But it's just in the office. Rory did pretty good, says Chris. Werdum got unlucky, and Pettis is finished, in my opinion. Yeah, hard to argue with those three. Any other bits of news, boys, or do we keep it brief today?
One quick thing, similarly related to guys going to PFL, they've come out of their contract. Nate Diaz obviously only got one fight left, which I think they're working on. So it'd be interesting to see what he does after that fight.
Yeah, Nate Diaz. If you're Nate Diaz, would you stay? Or would you just... I mean, did you see the hilarious... I think it was Dominic Cummings or whoever, the politician from the UK, was advising Nate Diaz to hold out for more money from Dana White. I didn't know he was a fan, but that is kind of the right play, though, isn't it, John? What would you do if you're Nate?
Well, if he holds out, he's just gonna hold out until like his career is over, and I think the UFC would do that. Like, they would eventually. Nate Diaz would have to succumb to what the UFC wants, right?
Or would you just fight? I mean, like Dominic Cummings suggested, fight this last contract, then go elsewhere, because you can make a lot more money, and then the trilogy with Conor will always be there, right? And Dana will bring you back for that for a lot of money.
Well, I don't think he has a choice. I think like when he signs his next bout agreement, they're gonna want to re-sign him as part of the deal, right? Because they know the value of Nate Diaz. Nate Diaz brings an audience. He brings numbers. He's a needle mover, which Dana White said many years ago that he wasn't, but now he's a bona fide superstar. Just look at everything that he does. Everybody's attracted to him. He says anything. People are in love with him. You know what I mean? So why would you let that go? Because, you know, Nate Diaz, he wants to leave. Why? Because he wants to go to boxing, of course. Why would you? He always complains about people wrestling, right? So what's the best way to compete without wrestling? Go to boxing. And he's been boxing for years. He's been in camps, training camps with like Andre Ward, some of the best boxers in the world. I think that's what Nate Diaz wants. He wants to have a big fight, get paid, and he wants to go boxing. But the UFC doesn't want that. They want to keep him until they can squeeze every piece of pulp out of him. And then, you know, he can go. That's just the nature of the business, right? Because Nate Diaz has never talked about retirement. Dana White will never try to say Nate Diaz needs to retire. And Nate Diaz is not young. How old is he? I think he's 38, 37. And he's taken some beatings, right, throughout his career. So the best thing for him is to just take the fight that they want, not resign, and go to boxing, because there's so many fights in boxing for him, you know, legit fights and circus fights. But the UFC doesn't want that, because at the end of the day, they want to make money. And, you know, they're in the money-making business. Conor's in the money-making business. Nate Diaz is in the money-making business. Jorge Masvidal is in the money-making business. And eventually they're going to have to succumb, right, to getting re-signed. I wouldn't be surprised if they announced, like, Nate Diaz next fight will be against Islam Makhachev, right? His last fight on his contract. If he doesn't re-sign with the UFC, I feel like they're going to give him a matchup like that, like against like Islam, somebody that would be a heavy favorite against Nate, and kind of like have him leave the UFC on this long losing streak, right? The last couple of years have not been well for Nate Diaz. If he does re-sign, then I feel like he's going to get a good matchup, like a matchup against, let's say, Vicente Luque, which if he wins that matchup, he could get a title shot after that. And then he signs like an 8-fight deal. I feel like that's what happened to Jorge Masvidal when he signed a deal to step in against Usman back when Gilbert Burns got COVID. I think this is what's going to happen. This is just, you know, my brain.
I think Nate versus Tony Ferguson is the fight to make.
It is. There's a lot of fights to make. It is a great fight, but Dana White, but you can't believe Dana White, right? He says that's not one of the fights we're looking at. And then next, 2 weeks later, Tony Ferguson versus Nate Diaz main event, right? So it's hard to say, but that is a great fight, Leon. I agree with you. I love that idea. It just depends on if Nate wants to sign the contract.
All right, Leon, any other words on that, or I'll throw this other topic to you, I did want to talk about. Looks like Joanna Youngjae has been removed from the UFC rankings. So a week after actually going up one place in the pound for pound rankings, she is now gone from the steroid rankings. So I haven't heard anything about her being cut. Do you think this is UFC strong arming her, Leon, to accept a fight? Because apparently she's been turning down fights at the top of that division. She's waiting for the title, or, you know, maybe she's only waiting for Weili or Rose. She doesn't seem interested in Marina Rodriguez.
Yeah, I think everyone would see the Marina Rodriguez fight, but I don't think she's that keen on it. I think obviously this happened with Leon Edwards, and it was certainly a case then of them just trying to force their hand and force him into fight. I think it was Hamlet Shimia for the time, wasn't it? I'm not so sure this time, because although Dana, you know, says don't wait, fight, you know, I think with her, he seems to have been understanding that she's only going to take huge fights, and he seems quite understanding of that. It doesn't seem to be from him, and you know him, he's not shy to say it, trying to bully her into a fight. So it's an interesting one, really. But yeah, it's just a shame that she's not willing to fight Marina Rodriguez, because that's the fight to make. And then the winner of that fight's guaranteed a title shot. So it's not a small fight. But yeah, I think, like you said, Nick, she's holding out for a title shot, or possibly Weili rematch.
And Weili and Rose next week. It's going to be huge. Can't wait to see it. Huge cards we've got coming up, guys, isn't it? After a few weeks of not so great UFC cards. I actually missed the drama on Sunday. I missed Costa and Vittori because of I was covering the Hong Kong marathon, but what the hell was that about all week? I mean, did you watch it, Leon? It was a good fight though in the end, wasn't it?
I was up at silly o'clock for that one. I've got to be up at silly o'clock. That's another thing. We've got to be up for silly o'clock this week for 267.
Yes. 2 a.m. I think the main card starts.
Yeah, so that's going to be always fun to stay up all night. But we say, yeah, Costa, yeah, that was just a bizarre. Just his demeanor about it, and he's just like he was doing nothing wrong, and he thought that Vittori doesn't deserve any of his money, and he's perfectly right to at the last minute make it the 195 and 205, but he just didn't seem to get it that this was crazy and, you know, disrespectful to everyone involved.
Yes, everyone.
But to be fair, I think everyone has had the doubts how much he was going to be into the fight. But to be fair, it was an amazing fight, and he certainly performed very well.
I heard it was a good fight. John, sadly, a couple of losses for our boys from South Korea, the Iron Turtle and Sting.
Yeah.
Sting was a crazy one, I heard. I heard he had Bruce Leroy in a lot of trouble and then got caught.
Yeah.
Well, he need him on the ground too, so that was a lot of trouble right there.
Okay. Yeah, that really didn't help him. That just, I mean, he's lucky that Leroy as well. It didn't seem to cross his mind that he could have maybe just got a disqualification win. He just carried on, but he had time to recover, because at that point he was badly hurt.
Yeah, he was.
And, yeah, and then he was just let back in the fight because of an illegal knee.
Yeah. And
well, what happened with Park Jun-young then? He lost to Gregory Rodriguez, second round submission. He'd on a little bit of a roll, hadn't he?
Yeah, well, it was a good fight. Like, he almost finished him, and then the RoboCop came back. That second round, just go watch the second round. The second round that's when the finish happens, but it's pretty wild. Them going back and forth, and they were just rock'em sock'em robots. It's like who clipped who first, and then swarmed the fastest is gonna probably get the finish. Because Park, he was doing really well. I think he clipped RoboCop. RoboCop was in trouble for a while. And then RoboCop just came back and clipped Park, had him against the fence, and then just nailed him, I believe, with a straight right hand. That kind of had him, it seemed like kind of TKO'd on the fence, and the fence was holding up. And that's when the referee jumped in. I think he did a good job. I think Park was knocked out on the feet. He just didn't drop. The fence was holding him. But yeah, man, it's just, I don't know. Korea only has a handful of fighters. So 2 of them losing on the same card doesn't look very good. You know what sucks is what sucks the most is that, of course, COVID happened, and because of COVID happening, the Asian Contender Series was, canceled and continually canceled, and now it's permanently canceled. But a lot of fighters in Asia were going to be on the Contender Series Asia, and they were going to get their opportunity. It's a few from Korea too, and I heard from Thailand and other Asian countries were going to go into the Shanghai PI and compete for contracts. But man, it sucks to see that they don't get that opportunity, and they're not going to fly them over to Las Vegas because they're only flying over Chinese fighters.
Yeah.
And there seems to be some kind of obligation to have a certain amount of Chinese fighters on the Contender Series.
Well, I think they've got to do something with these academy fighters because they're spinning their wheels in China in WLF, I think it is. It's just getting win after win. I think they need to see if they're ready for the UFC. And we got 3 this week, 3 next week. So see if any of them get contracts. And yeah, I agree, John. It's unfortunate to see some fighters from other parts of Asia not get a chance, but hopefully they will in some way. Or we might get the Asian Contender Series next year. You never know. Anything else
On
to
a
talk
positive
about?
note, I mean, the South Koreans are flying in one championship.
Yeah, until Sunday or Saturday, it was. What about Jeff Molina? I heard he looked good again.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. He's young. Got great coaching. Got great team over at Glory MMA with James Krause. He has a lot of potential, man. I think that he just needs experience. If he gets more and more experience, I think they shouldn't push him too quick. But I think he'll eventually be a top 15 fighter in the flyweight division.
Yeah, seems to be the consensus. All right, yes, huge UFC card coming up this week and next week. 2 massive cards. So we'll preview UFC 267 on, I think, hopefully Thursday or something like that. We'll leave it there for today, guys, unless you have any burning desires to talk about anything else. Speak now or forever hold your peace until Thursday.
Well, we're got SCMP. We're gonna have an interview coming out today with Dan Hooker. So look out for that. And
I need
and
to do that for you, don't I? Sorry.
and look out for that because it's a little bit different. The interview that I did, we talk about something that's we talk about the Islam fight, but we're talking about other things. Especially his run-in with David Goggins in Las Vegas. It's very unusual how he met David Goggins. So watch that. That's interesting. And it's just him talking about like PTSD in fighters. Certain fighters, do they get PTSD? It's his answer is quite interesting because he did get knocked out by Michael Chandler, and he talks about kind of coming back from that. We have an interview with Jan Blachowicz, who is the main event this weekend, defending his title against Glover Teixeira. Who else do we have? We have the Leech, his interview, right, on our page.
Yeah, somewhere.
Somewhere, right? So go check those interviews out. Quite a few high-profile names on the SCMP YouTube channel. Go peep that, and and keep following me.
Yep, check out JHK MMA on all his social channels. SCMP MMA. We're also going to have on the website, so scmp.com/MMA, I think it is. We've got some cool stuff coming your way as well there. One of our guys, Matt Scott, has spoken to who is it? Pedro Yang Wei Li's BJJ coach from inside her training camp before the Pedro Jordao, I think it is, before the fight. So that'll be up on our website, scmp.com/MMA today. And I've also got an interview with Rich Franklin I did the other day. I've been meaning to get that up. And there's I think a super chat here, or a super sticker. I want to highlight that. Sorry. Thank you. The great benefactor, $1.49. My God, we love it. Yes, I turned on super chats and things and super stickers. If anyone, because a lot of people have been asking, how can I support the show? How can I support the people on it? Things like that help. Definitely. That's what I've turned them on now. So if you ever want to show your love, please do. And then I can share the wealth with these contributors. because they do give their free time to me. Leon, what have you got coming up on Asian Persuasion MMA?
No, not really. Just see what happens this week with the one card. Take it from there.
Yes, Leon and I will. Are you going to be on the Fight Companion, Leon? Friday?
I will be there with bells on.
Good, because we did it solo last time with me and you. It was quite the experience. See if we get any of the other guys on. Maybe Chris, maybe John. Are you busy, John, on Friday? You're down in Phuket, right? So you got a lot of stuff going on, I know.
Yeah, I just got stuff in the works down here. I can't really say nothing about it. But I will have some interviews out from fighters over here. Yeah, just it. That's it, man. Just working, and I don't know if I'll be able to hop on the Friday Fight Companion. If I can, I will, and I will let you know.
That sounds good. Otherwise, keep it here, guys. Keep it SCMP MMA. As John said, we got some great interviews coming up on the channel today and over the next few days. So I'll leave it there. See you back here in 2 days' time. I will definitely be doing something on Thursday morning Asia, Wednesday night US. But until then, have a good one. We'll see you all there. Thanks, Leon. Thank you, John. It's been a fun one. See you.